What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Living in Arizona, and today we are going to talk about cheap land in Arizona. So, if you are considering moving to Arizona or you're already living in Arizona and you're looking for cheap land, you can find cheap land in Arizona. And some of the prices that you will find, you can get 40 acres for $28,000. I've seen 30 acres for like $17,000. And in this video, the goal is to tell you some of the tools that I use. Maybe you're already using them, but also give you some places that you can check around Arizona. Now, cheap is dependent upon multiple different things. To some people, 5 acres for $100,000 is cheap, especially if it's in, say, maybe close to Sedona. Or to some people, maybe 40 acres for $20,000 is cheap. But it just depends on the variable, right? So maybe if you're looking to buy cheap or land in Scottsdale, $100,000 for an acre is cheap, right? So we're also going to touch on that. Now, if you enjoy videos like this, do subscribe to Living in Arizona. We go over a variety of topics related to Arizona. Let's dive right in here and talk about some of these prices. So in Phoenix, for example, we'll start here. Phoenix is growing outwards, right? So the cheap land in and around Phoenix is really in the Southwest Valley or Southwest Phoenix towards Buckeye, and then beyond that, I think it's Tonopah, and then the Southeast Valley towards Florence, Coolidge, down towards Tucson, even Casa Grande. You can get cheap land in Casa Grande, okay? Casa Grande, whatever you want to call it, Casa Grande. So Phoenix, if you go north, you're not going to really find too much cheap land because it's hills, high desert. Maybe if you go north, like New River towards Black Canyon City, it might get a little bit more affordable, but it's not as cheap as it is if you go southwest or southeast. Now, if you like to cool off and you're looking for some cheap land in some high country, cheap destinations, for example, the growing Prescott Valley or the Verde Valley, that area there where Cottonwood is, you might be looking at, if you go towards Rimrock or you go towards Cornville, even towards like up in the hills up by Mingus, you'll start to find like maybe 3-4 acres for some pretty decent prices. You could look in a town called Strawberry next to Payson, which is just off the Mogollon Rim. Then you go west towards Camp Verde. Sedona is expensive. You're not going to find anything in Sedona that's going to be below $100,000 an acre, really. I'm not saying it's impossible, but good luck on that. But yeah, if you're trying to be close to Sedona, you would check around Rimrock, Camp Verde, Cornville, Cottonwood, and then you push towards Prescott. Up in the forest, they've got some cheap land. Now, if desert's your thing and you just want a whole bunch of like ranching style land, like I said, Casa Grande. Also, another place you could check is this place called Bisbee. Bisbee's got some cheap land. If you're interested in like mining, like copper comes from there. Turquoise comes from there. So Bisbee's known for land, or not land, for mining, and you can find cheap land around those mines. Some pretty interesting countryside. Then if you go on certain websites like landwatch.com, I'll just give you an example of some of the prices they have on Landwatch for Arizona, right? So Williams up in Coconino County, 40 acres, $28,000. Magnificent forested 40-acre parcel. That's pretty darn good money, right? For Williams, that's that's near Flagstaff, okay? You've got Sholo, which is in Navajo County. That's eastern Arizona. 2.5 acres, $9,950. How about this one? Concho, Apache County, 37 acres for $9,950. That's really good. So 37 acres for under $10,000. That's out there. You're among the juniper trees and the pinyon trees. What's wrong with it, right? Well, Apache County is far east Arizona. There's not much out there. Then if you go for some pretty cheap land that's in a pretty interesting area, you got Ash Fork in Yavapai County. That's 53 acres for $220,000. So you can see cheap is variable, But it really just comes down to a lot of different factors. St. John's in Apache County, 40 acres, 2250. Another place that I really like to check, and you probably already know about this, is what do we have here? We have Zillow. Go on to Zillow. Like this one I'm looking at, 1 acre, 10,500 in Tonopah. If you know where Tonopah is, then good on you, because Tonopah is in West Phoenix, right? And that's that area I was telling you about previously. But this one, they have Tonopah right there next to a little tributary, kind of on the way out by where Bill Gates is building the smart city, right? So Bill Gates does have a smart city to that side of what they call the White Tanks. Those are the White Tank Mountains. The other side of the White Tank is Surprise and the Southwest Valley. You know, the Luke Air Force Base, all that good stuff, right? Now that's way out there in like Litchfield Park, and then you go towards Glendale. That's West Phoenix. So Tonopah is on the other side of the White Tank, so it's really not considered Phoenix. It's just north of the Gila River. But that was an interesting price, right? But it's really out in the middle of nowhere, truthfully. And then, you know, you just kind of scroll around Arizona, you can find all sorts of stuff. If you like northern Arizona, if northern Arizona is your thing, you know, you can go up to Page. Lots up in Page are pretty expensive. I mean, you know, that's close to Utah. It's you would say it's Mormon country, you know, not that that really matters, but I'm saying that, yeah, I mean, it's close to Utah, and a lot of the homesteaders up there are Mormon. And so if you wanted 1 acre near the Lake Powell, you know, you're looking at $160,000 or $107,000 for a cheap lot, right? And that's up there in northern Arizona near Lake Powell. Now, like I said, the real cheap land is in eastern Arizona towards New Mexico. And that's just the way it is. There's nothing that I can say or do about that, right? If you wanted some cheap land near Yuma, you can find it. That's near the Colorado River. For example, lots down there. Well, I mean, actually, you know, to be honest with you, Yuma's not really that cheap. That's close to California, and it's not really that cheap. If you wanted to go towards like Lake Havasu City, you know, you're not going to really find anything too cheap out there either, because believe it or not, even places like that, Lake Havasu is one of the hottest places in Arizona, in America actually, but because it's on a nice lake, people like it, you know, and that's just the way it is. I mean, if I was to show you some of these lots in Lake Havasu, you could get 0.3 acres for $160,000. Like, that's not cheap, right? On the outskirts of town, you can get a lot for $84,000. That's 10,000 square feet. So really, Lake Havasu City is not very cheap. If you wanted to like search for home lots in the Phoenix metropolitan area, like I said, Southeast Valley is really where you're gonna find some decent deals, and the Southwest Valley. For example, Santan Valley. It's 2 acres for $129,000. Like, that's not that cheap, right? But, you know, and I'm just scrolling around on Zillow showing you kind of the cheap areas. The real nice areas are up in North Phoenix, though. That's like where that's where it's nice. Let's see how much land is out in Buckeye. So I got one here. 9 acres in Buckeye for $39,000. So Southwest Valley is really where the cheap land is. Like I told you earlier in the video, Buckeye. So if you're looking for Phoenix cheap land, Buckeye is where you're going to want to go. North of Phoenix, you know, like I said, New River, but you'd even start wanting to push towards Black Canyon City. Then some high country that a lot of people don't really know about, where you can find some decent priced houses or lots. It's in this place called Crown King, where if you like to escape the heat, go up to Crown King. Also consider looking in the forest around Prescott. But Crown King is quite interesting. It's a way to beat the heat. There's not really a road up there yet. Some people might be watching this saying, hey, don't tell people about Crown King. You know, they could be saying that, right? But then there's some other places that are still off the grid, if you don't mind that off the grid stuff. But, you know, if you don't mind off the grid, you can go to like a place called Morristown, which is out in Bumblebee, for those of you who know about I-17. But that's beyond Lake Pleasant, and it's really forsaken land out there. It's nothing up there. But I will say that the way Phoenix has grown, there was a point in time where a place like New River was out in the boonies. Now New River is just like really a place you want to live. And Black Canyon City, the same thing. Like no one wanted to live up in Black Canyon City, and now it's starting to come under the radar all of a sudden. Like land in Black Canyon City is starting to go up because Phoenix is pushing that way. But not too long ago, Black Canyon City was not the place to be. That's for darn sure. I mean, even if you check out New River, you can get a plot of land up in New River. I mean, I'm looking at one right now up north of Anthem in New River, $39,000 for 1 acre, which that's actually a pretty good deal considering the way that the Valley of Phoenix or the Phoenix metro area is growing. But again, that's north of Anthem. It's really out there in no man's land, and it's starting to come into a zone where it's getting to a point where it's going to become something. So, anyways, guys, hopefully this answered some question about it. I know it's a very broad subject about cheap land, but like I said, Eastern Arizona has the cheapest land. Then you can find some cheap land out in the desert like Casa Grande, Bisbee. And if you like the high country, you can get some pretty cheap land near Prescott, even towards a little bit in between Camp Verde and Payson, you have Strawberry. So cheap is subjective. I mean, if you're looking for cheap land in Scottsdale, maybe cheap would be over $100,000 for an acre, okay? So we'll see you guys later.